Joe Burrow is not the LVP. Patrick Mahomes abandons reason for madness. And Brian Dable tells his Giants, "You shall not pass."
Yeah, feeling good on a Wednesday. Sparkling.
Hope you're all feeling good for a Wednesday. Hope you're watching this on a Wednesday. Of course, I'll get this posted on Wednesday because the wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He posts precisely when he means to. My name is actually Byron Cobalt from Byron-Cobalt.com. Welcome to Fantasy Games 1. Fantasy Games 1 is the statistic that converts fantasy points into your chances of winning. I am dressed as Gandalf, not just to celebrate Halloween, but to celebrate what for me is the end of mute button season. Yeah, no, this is, I always look forward to November. I gotta catch my breath here after yelling and I can't really breathe through this super well. I spend most of October on the mute button watching football because I got the young kids around and I want them to enjoy football. I don't want to scare the living shit out of them from all these horror movie commercials. I really can't catch my breath in this. So I'm muting all the commercials and doing the jump button a lot. Now I don't have to worry about that anymore, which is good. So I'm happy. So I'm celebrating. So Gandalf is here to present Fantasy Games 1 to you today because there won't be much of an excuse to dress like this anymore. Before we dive into week 8, we have some news for the Fantasy Games 1 leaderboard. Joe Burrow, who's spent all year in the basement for the least valuable player list, as in he's had the worst cumulative Fantasy Games 1 in the NFL. It's like I'm wearing one of those masks you play basketball in or to warm up in. I guess you probably shouldn't play in those. Yeah, Joe Burrow for the first time all year is not the least valuable player in fantasy. That title now belongs to Najee Harris. What I have up in here, this is a blow-by-blow of the two players. Burrow, you can see, started off the year with a terrible week. I think they got 3 points or so, negative 0.32 Fantasy Games 1. Najee started off not well, but not quite as bad. And Burrow keeps on dropping his number there until week 8. 64% of Burrow managers actually started him this past week, and he had a great week, 30 points. This is compared to Najee Harris, who still started 56% of the time but only dropped 8 points. So now Burrow has actually escaped the basement.
Can I come upstairs now?
He is not the LVP. At least he's not the leader in the LVP race. He might still become the LVP. Who knows? What's interesting here about this comparison is Joe Burrow has actually been worse than Najee Harris when he plays. He's actually been farther off the quarterback average than Najee Harris is off the historical starting fantasy running back average. But the reason why now Najee's number is worse is because Burrow has somewhat done it on your bench, especially in week 3. Only 31% started when he had 8 points. So congrats to Joe Burrow on escaping the basement, and our condolences to Najee Harris. We'll see if he's able to escape. I mean, if he's got a healthy percent starting number, he can still get out of the lead for a least valuable player here. He's got some company. He's got some company with Trevor Lawrence and Dameon Pierce. But we'll see how this plays out. Now that we are at first light on the 5th day, it's time to storm week 8. I don't know if that makes sense. Who won the battle of week 8?
Come on. Don't watch it feed.
CeeDee Lamb led the charge in week 8. CeeDee with a great week, but unfortunately, he only started 92% of the time. I'm having trouble imagining a team that doesn't start CeeDee Lamb at this point. I mean, maybe some people don't always follow the rule of start your studs. It's not like CeeDee's been having an amazing year. But that 92% started number, I checked it. The actual Yahoo data showed 88% started for CeeDee Lamb. So it's the expert rankings what bumped it up to 92%. So yeah, no, a lot of people did not start CeeDee Lamb. It's kind of surprising. Fly, you fools! As in fly with your eagles, like fellow wizard AJ the Brown and Devontae the Smith, who may forge the one ring you desire. So start your eagles because this might happen. Jalen Hurts is on there too. The Eagles are coming. All we have to decide is what to do with the draft picks that are given to us. And I hope you decided to take Christian McCaffrey and not Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase if you had a very early pick. I've been looking for an excuse to nickname Jahmyr Gibbs Racing after Joe Gibbs Racing. That's Joe Gibbs' NASCAR team. It's actually a very good team. He's fast and he's performing. I have him in 2 leagues and I have definitely seen a bit of a resurgence lately. I've returned to finish my task. One interesting thing here. we finally had a week where Jalen Waddle actually scored more than Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle has yet to have a better fantasy games won number than Tyreek Hill. And the reason why he didn't this week is because Jalen's 89% started number means that a certain number of people, similar to CeeDee Lamb, didn't have him in their starting lineup for his 21-point day. So Tyreek Hill's 21.2-point day by half PPR typical scoring system was more beneficial because you start 100% of the time, because you have to be pretty silly to not start Tyreek Hill at this point. All right. Losing is just another path, a path we all must take. So let's find out who lost week 8. Losing is a path that Dameon Pierce has been taking a lot this year. Dameon Pierce has only had 1 week where he was above average for a fantasy starter, and it was barely above average. Back in week 3.
Dad, what was week 3 like for Dameon Pierce owners? Everyone's doing the McMahon meme.
So since then, it's been a rough go of it there, which is unfortunate because of how good the Texans have been doing compared to expectations. Jacoby Myers, 70% started. This is 2 weeks in a row now he's been at 70% started. This has been his worst week of the year. He wasn't above 36% started until week 7. And now that he's up to 70, he gets a 2.4 point game out there. As a result, his overall fantasy games won for the season is negative 0.1, despite the fact that he's been actually, his total points is pretty decent. He's been averaging above average for a starter when you ignore percent started. So interesting case study for Jacoby Myers. Don't tempt me, Pacheco. Don't tempt me to bench you. I don't want to bench you. Isaiah Pacheco is not trying to rob you. He's trying to help you. Looking a little bit deeper on the list here, down towards the bottom, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams owners wish none of this had ever happened, that he had never gone to the Raiders. But, well, I guess dynasty owners, because if you just, picked him in redraft, you already knew he was on the Raiders. Hope you had insurance for Patrick Mahomes this week. This shows how much a bad quarterback week can really hurt you. Mahomes was 16 points below the average for a fantasy starter for quarterback under the scoring system, like a generic scoring system. No other position even averages 16 points for starters. So if you want to hurt your team as much as Mahomes did from a different position, you have to have negative points, like multiple fumbles, not a lot of yards. Fairly rarely happens. It actually most often happens with backup quarterbacks that they get negative points. Brighter days ahead for those that bundled Mahomes and Auto. White Shores. I think that's more of an... I like to talk about dying, but we don't have to go there for fantasy. Not quite yet. I mean, I kind of imply that a lot. Many that start deserve benching. Many that are benched deserve starting. Can you give it to them? Can you start the players that deserve to be started? The junior varsity all-stars. These are the players that have done the best while on your bench or as a free agent. Top of the list is DeAndre Hopkins. No one really saw the Will Levis game coming. I didn't hear anyone talk about the Will Levis game coming. I heard people celebrating, Atlanta Falcons defense owner celebrating when he was announced to be the starter. I was celebrating, and maybe Will Levis is good. Apparently Will Levis also has one of the stronger arms in the entire NFL, like can throw like 80 yards or something like that. I don't know if DeAndre Hopkins can, get open on a go route, an 80-yard go route quite like that, but doesn't have to. Congrats to those that are still holding on to DeAndre Hopkins at this point. Gus Edwards with the back-to-back weeks on the JV squad. He's dominating these sophomores over here. He's got to get called up to the varsity team. Taysom Hill. I can't believe we're still talking about Taysom Hill at this point. Taysom Hill is more unpredictable than the hills of Emmett-Mobile. Fun story. My 6-year-old daughter was recruited by my sister to be her helper for, co-manager for fantasy football last year. And this past week, my sister asked my daughter who she would start between Russell Wilson and Sam Howell. She said Sam Howell, the courage of hobbits. Come, hobbits. Pick my fantasy team, hobbits. Little 6-year-olds. Kind of like hobbits. I haven't had my kids dressed like hobbits for Halloween yet, but that day is coming because they're going to grow taller, and that ruins the costume. For the leaderboard update, we're just going to go a little bit deeper into one leaderboard of the week, our featured leaderboard this week. So we're going to talk about the Brady Wedding Ring season LVP leaderboard. Joe Burrow, I mentioned, is now the 4th from the bottom. So he's still pretty low, no matter how good that week is. The wound of the first 7 weeks will never fully heal. It'll stay with him and his fantasy managers for the rest of his life. James Cook's not going to have a chance to turn it around now with Leonard Fournette joining him. The Bills and the 49ers really ramping up here. Ramondre Stevenson falling pretty close to the bottom here. Ramondre Stevenson still getting started a decent amount. Running back is it's been a rough year of it. If you haven't had someone like Travis Etienne, who's been amazing, or Christian McCaffrey, or, Kenneth Walker's been pretty good. But Oh, obviously Mostert, but I think that's like basically everyone that's been good, that's been healthy all season. Mostert hasn't even been healthy all season. All right, that's it for this week. Now we can finally mute Week 8 for good. I hope that your season hasn't given you too many jump scares, and if it has, just remember that we're all going down in this fantasy football ghost ship together. It's been a privilege and an honor. If you enjoyed this video, I'm not going to dress as Gandalf every time, but like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and good luck in Week 9. See you next Wednesday.
Right, that's it.